Hello friends, so welcome to this demo. So in this particular lecture, we'll discuss how we can configure or what are the different options we have to configure security policies in case of Azure Security Center. So basically we'll discuss about two things. We'll discuss about the ASC default, which is initiative, or you can say whenever you enable the security center, initiative or a policy named ASC default is automatically assigned to all security center registered subscriptions, whether it is free trial or your under standard tier. So what I am talking about is, let's say if you'll go to the open the security center under policy and compliance, if you'll open up the security policy and click on the subscriptions, you'll be able to see three things basically. One is the security policy, which is ASC default assignment. Then you will see industry regulation and standards. And then the third is the custom policies. So in this particular demo, we'll discuss about the security policy ASC default and your custom initiatives, and we'll have a separate lecture onto the industry and regulatory standards policy. So basically, what I'm talking about is that whenever you create a security center, ASC default initiative is created and is applied to all the subscriptions which are registered in the security center, whether it is under free or a standard tier. So basically, if in the previous lecture we discussed that okay, security policies are kind of a configuration or the state of your infrastructure which an organization want. With the help of a security policy, will able to retain that okay, this is the desired configuration, like my VM should behave this way, my network configuration should be in a this way. So if there is a deviation, we'll get an alert or you'll get recommendation from the Microsoft that okay, this needs to be remediated. And security center, which basically like the recommendations we have seen, all the recommendations like compute apps, networking, it gives the recommendation based on your chosen policies only. And security policies are based on the policy initiative. Like in the free trial, we can see that okay, ASC default initiative we have, right? So that is why it gives the recommendation. So we'll see what actually is the ASC default and if we are able to make any change or not. So let's say if you click on view effective policy onto the ASC default initiative, you can see that okay, these are the recommendations or the policies which are by default configured by Microsoft, like monitor the missing endpoint protection in Azure Security Center, and what would be the effect? Audit if it does not exist. System updates should be installed onto your virtual machines. Vulnerabilities in a security configuration of your virtual machine should be remediated. So if, similarly, if you'll come to networking, there are policies related to subnet should be associated with the network security group. So let's say if from your organization perspective, you can create a custom policy where you can add this, or you can enable this as well. Similarly, we have policies related to data, related to your SQL servers, storage account. Similarly, we have policies related to your identity and what could be the effect for those policies, like diagnostic logging, your keyword should be enabled. So all these are policies which are there in the ASC default, you can say, initiative. And now let's say if there is a requirement that okay, if you need to enable something, like let's say a subnet should be associated with the network group. If you want to enable or any other policy which you want to disable it, you can do that. Let's In that case, you need to click on this, the initiative which is there. Basically, when you create a custom policy, we'll be able to define if we want to exclude any of the basically the subscription or those details. We'll be able to mention it over here. And this is the assignment name, and this is the uh, description which is provided. See the description, it is a default set of policies monitored by Azure Security Center and automatically assigned as a part of onboarding to Security Center. So it contains only the audit policies, more or now it is assigned by Security Center. Now if you want to change, go to the parameters group, and from here, if you want to disable this, you can disable this. Like if you want to get notified, you can click on audit if not exist. Let's go to the policy, like I was saying, network security groups we were discussing about, right? Subnets should be associated with the network security groups. So See, this was the policy we were discussing about. Network security groups on the subnet level should be enabled. So by default, it is disabled. If you want, you can click on audit if not exist and click on save. Similarly, if you want to change onto some other rules like monitor unaudited SQL servers in a secure city center, then click on audit if not exist. And this way we can make the changes to the parameters we want. In cup of the policy, you will be able to see another rule as deny as well. So you can see virtual machines should be migrated to a new resource manager. You'll get three options: audit, deny, or disable. So in that case, you can choose the option which you want. And we'll not go into the details because we have already studied that option in the while during the Azure policies. So there are different policies over here. So if I'll click on review and save, and I can click on save basically. So in this way, we can manage, we can basically change the parameters or the different policies which we want to configure for our infrastructure or for our environment which is there into the cloud. So this is about the default policy. Now there might be a possibility that okay, so the another option which I would like to discuss is that the custom initiative. So we have discussed about the ASC default initiative which is automatically created when when the Azure Security Center is created and applied to the subscriptions. Now this is the custom initiative. See, custom initiated are like which you have created, and so that you want that okay, for those initiatives there should be a recommendations that which Azure Security Center gives to you, or whatever the requirements which are there in the default policies. You need something more to that or more less to that or less to that. In that case, you can design your own custom initiatives. You can choose the policies which are already there, or you can choose the custom policies. So let's say if you'll add a custom initiative and we'll give a name to it, and let's create a new custom initiative, and I'll be choosing the free trial which I have, and the name would be test initiative definition, and then description we can leave at this is it is pretty simple. And then you can choose the category for the existing services which you have, like category from apps or from SQL from database. So you can choose anything, right? Or you can test ID 123, and then you can choose the new one. So let's mention the you can mention the definition or as test new one. And this is the which I'm talking about. So this is the initiative definition. So initiative definition, we want to configure some rules on the basis of which Azure Security Center should give us the recommendation. So these are the basically the different rules which you can configure on, or the policies which you can configure on the basis of which Azure Security Center will give you the recommendations. So from here you can choose the built-in policies as well as the custom policies like we discussed in the Azure policies. So let's say if we'll choose the built-in policies, and let's say if we want to choose the location-based policies first. See, we can change that okay, which all locations would be allowed, and we can add this policy, or you can configure the definition here as well. Definition is basically here. If you want to perform any kind of changes within the JSON script, you can do that as well. Otherwise, you can click on add and this will be added. Here you can allow that okay, which all locations are allowed where your organization can deploy the resources. So let's say if I'll click on uh, Australia Center, okay, and then this is one policy we have added. Similarly, let's say if you want to add something related to your network, right? Okay, just give me a sec, and then you can type it over network. Then you'll get all the policies related to network. So let's say if I want to add network security group rules for internet facing machines should be hardened, so I can there add that particular policy, and what kind of that action would be should be taken, or that okay, it should give the audit if not exist, or it should be disabled. But I'll click on audit if not exist so that I can get the recommendation. Similarly, you can add as many as policies you want depending on the recommendations which you want from the Azure Security Center. So if I'll click on save, it will be done within few seconds. So we have our new policy, which will be new custom initiatives, which will be available over here, where we have added the policies. Yeah, so it is the test ID initiative definition 123 which we have created. Now, this is the initiative we have created. We have not assigned it to any of the subscription yet. Okay, so that needs to be done. Only then it will give us the recommendation. So in an organization, there could be number of subscriptions. There could be some policies which you want to apply, some base policies like HTTPS enforcement, or the use of TLS, or the use of hardened the network security groups. You want to apply it to all the subscriptions. And then there might be some custom initiatives which you want to apply to the some particular subscriptions which have some let's say a bot related data, or some very high security web apps you have created, or some high security virtual machines. So in that case, you can choose the custom initiatives and apply it to and assign it to those particular subscriptions only. So if you click over here, and if you want to exclude certain initiatives, you can do that as well onto certain subscriptions. So if you click on assign, here you can basically that okay, define the scope, that okay, what all should be included from here, right? That okay, to which resource group you want to apply. So all these options we can choose it from here, right? So if you want to, let's say, exclude certain resources, you want to provide certain exclusions, you can do that as well. So you can click on, it is selecting the resources. So if you want to exclude certain things, you can do that as well. Choose a resource where you want to exclude this. So let's say I don't want to apply this policy to my Cosmos DB. So in that case, click on save, and you can see this has been added to my exclusion. So this policy will not be applied over here. So you can do the policy enforcement is assigned by whom. Basically, you can mention the user ID or any person. Best practices to add the name or the admin who has basically created that policy and assigned. So if you click on next, you can also do the remediation by creating a managed entity so that it can do the remediation as well. And then we'll click on next, and this policy initiative we created test ID 123, and we applied it to the our RG resource group. So this is how you can see this has been succeeded. This is how you can create the different policies and apply it to the resource groups, different subscriptions. So this is it in this lecture. We discussed about the ASC default assignment, right? And we discussed about the custom initiatives, and then we applied it to a one of the resource group. So hope now you have the clarity onto the security policies. So thank you friends. Thank you for watching this lecture. Meet you in the next lecture.